Welcome to another episode of Life Distilled. I'm your host, Ryan Hickey, here with Kobe Williamson, the founder of MicroShiner. Welcome, Kobe.
Thank you, Ryan.
We're here with Mark from the Montana Distillery here in Missoula, Montana. Welcome, Mark.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you for coming over here.
Very excited. Perfect timing. Raye just made us up some beautiful looking cocktails. My gosh.
Yeah, we have our Sunday Bloody Mary bar, and you get to go through and load it up.
I don't think we could have picked a better time. Well, let's get right into it. Let's hear the background about how you wanted to become a distiller and the space, which is awesome. I'm excited for people to see it on the podcast.
Yeah, this is a really beautiful space. I'm an industrial hygienist by trade, so I've done a lot of environmental toxicology and
Wow.
safety work, hazmat work, Superfund, oil spill cleanup type of stuff, and
Interesting.
working in the chemical plants and refineries. Those big, huge columns are huge stills. And so
Right.
what I realized once I got up here, and I had my own consulting business for quite a few years, that eventually with my type of consulting, I want to develop the clients to where they're self-sufficient so they don't need me. They can do it themselves. And so at the time I knew that I would work my way out of work, so to speak. And so I've always had interest in brewing. I had award-winning beers that I did as an amateur. And
Cool.
I was talking to Kevin Head, the Rhino, in
Yep.
town here, and Kevin says, "Well, why don't you do a distillery?" You know, this is about 2006. They just made it legal, and I thought, yeah, but there's always it's kind of just a weird, like I said, we talked about, or taboo, kind of like, ooh, it's just so mysterious. Well, for years and years, 4 or 5 years, tried to go through the process, and it's one of those things where you fill out a form, and you're, what's your name? Okay. What's the name of your distillery? Got that. Where's it at? I don't have a building. Okay, go to the next one. What's your formula? I don't have a formula. Would you have a still? I don't have a still. How can I have a formula if I don't have a still? You know, kind of thing goes round and round. And essentially, the laws are written such that you're a bootlegger before you become legal, which is kind of a scary proposition there.
Right.
And then going through years of being a safety person, a safety professional. Drinking on the job, kind of things like that. That's kind of weird. This wasn't in my DNA.
A little bit taboo.
Yeah, it's a little like not on my radar.
Right.
And so we got a phone call from a friend of mine who said, "Hey, there's this distillery for sale." And distilleries have a very, very, very low rate of failure or exchange. I should say less than 0.7%.
Wow.
From calculations that I've come up with. And so I called the guy up. Went up to his place in Eureka and met with him. I got up like 4 in the morning to be sure I was the first one there, just to make sure, first one there gets the first rights of kind of refusal, so to speak.
Right.
And so I talked with him, saw the value in it, and Sherry and I took a look at it. Our family took a look at it, and the guy he's the second oldest distiller. We're technically the second oldest distillery and third oldest second oldest vodka, third oldest distillery, pardon me, since Prohibition. And so this guy was one of the very first people to do it. Well, he'd moved here from the East Coast, bought land, and then had some personal issues, and great guy, great couple, but they were divorced and living in the same house. I mean, this had to be rough on them.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to get rid of it and move on with his life, and she with her life.
Sure.
And so we just came at the right time with that. And we lived I lived, and Sherry and I lived in a motorhome up there for 8 months, off and on, mostly on for me.
Wow.
Called the Big Brown Turd. It was a big old 84 Winnebago.
Awesome.
As a kid, I always thought, God, what cool, live in a van, live in a
Van
Winnebago
life.
like that, van
Yeah.
life. And then no, never again. I even watched Extreme RVs for months after I got back to try and psych myself into maybe doing that kind of life.
Easier said than done.
I know, it is. It's tough. So we found a place here. Initially, we were going to be at the Expert Tire Building, which is right next or behind where they're building the new hotel.
Yep.
And we went through that process for about a year or so, and finally just said, this is ridiculous. We just weren't getting anywhere with any of the process.
Yeah.
And got a call about this building day after my 50th birthday, and we found this. We're in it Found out in April, or in it, working on it in July, and then we opened up on December 13th of 2014, 12, 13, 14.
Wow.
Yeah. It's quite a process.
Quite a process.
From start to opening, 10 years or so of total of just kind of as it ramped up.
Unbelievable. What motivated you to find this path in life?
I don't know. I've always enjoyed cooking. I've always enjoyed creating the manufacturing is such a neat process where you're creating something from nothing and you're bringing it to marketplace, and people are taking time out of their day and money out of their wallet to enjoy your product, and then you get to have a following, a really nice following.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just very satisfying. It's a very satisfying process. It's hard, but it's satisfying.
Well, like we were talking before we started rolling the camera, I don't think people realize the process of what it takes. I think people are used to coming into a liquor store or a distillery or a bar or pub and having a bartender like Raye make a really nice cocktail and can tell them a little bit about it. But the process of making what you make, it's very labor intensive.
Very labor intensive, takes a lot of time from grain to glass, so to speak, months, so you're putting a lot of upfront capital. And then, one thing, you have to have that symbiotic relationship with the tasting room side. Sherry does all the drinks and everything. She's won as many awards with her drinks as we have with our vodkas.
Awesome.
And so that definitely helps, because you can have a good vodka or good concept, but if you don't have good cocktails to go along with it in the tasting room, then that makes all the difference in the world, because we both support each other as far as that, and there's a lot of overlap. Yeah, you're coordinating raw ingredients. It's timing. You have to time the fermentation. You have to baby the fermentations. You have to watch the processes from start to finish, so that little things don't happen that contaminate the flavor. Mm-hmm. And it's constant. It's constant. And so with the growth we've had, which has been phenomenal, it's like we're starting over again. It's insane just trying to manage and the logistics involved with everything, but it's been good. We got a really, really good staff on both sides, tasting room side and our production side, which really makes all the difference in the world, because the work that goes into it is not just the distilling, is the labor intensive, time intensive part, but the hard part is the reporting and the marketing and dealing with charities, and there's just so many other elements, and compliance.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that.
Yeah.
Podcast guys coming and hitting you up for underwriting,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention something. You kind of touched on it. Ryan and I were talking on the way over, and I had said, the first time I became aware of you folks, we were all in Seattle at the ADI Expo. And
Right.
I came out of this lecture or seminar, and I'm not sure if you guys were in the seminar with me or not, but when I came out on the mezzanine, I saw you and your dad and Sherry, and you guys had the shirts on, and I was like, oh, hey, I'm from Montana. We kind of chatted a little bit, and you say, let's stay in touch, and we've kept in contact since then. But the seminar I was in, I had just been taking furious notes, because it was making me incensed. Because the gentleman was in there and he was talking about, I think he was a flavor guy and an additive guy.
Right.
And one of the things that he said is like, okay, you got to make your brand. So you need money to make your brand. We can make any flavor you want. It doesn't matter. So just get yourself some NGS. If you're going to make vodka or gin, just don't waste time with making that.
Neutral grain spirits.
Just
correct,
get yourself some NGS. And then with all that headroom, all that extra money that you're going to have between the cost of the NGS and what you'll be able to price point your bottle at, put that into marketing, put that in building your brand. You can be able to scale your brand, and you're going to be able to get out. Can you tell us what your thoughts are on that, and how you see that?
Sure.
Is that part of your model?
Ours is a little different. There are vodkas, gins, whiskeys, and such out there that are bottled by some independent person. They slap a label on it, put some cheap flavors in it, and send it out there. And for the most part, the public doesn't understand that. They don't. We had talked, and it kind of goes along with something that why certain distilleries do better than others at certain phases of their times, or even succeed. our business model is a little different. So the business model when you and I met in Seattle, for most distilleries, is put out a neutral spirit, a vodka, okay, while you're working on your whiskey, and then work on your gin, then work on, and then your whiskey comes out and you're saved.
Right.
Well, that's if your whiskey comes out.
Right.
One. And so what happens is with some distilleries is they'll put out a white whiskey, because that's the first thing that comes off the still, and which is an misunderstood product. So you have to know how to make it, and people have to know how to drink it, how it's going to taste. They're expecting maybe a vodka, but it's not. It's a pretty whiskey, so it's got flavors to it. And so I see the biggest thing was with us, we had a poor product, and with Flathead Distillers, and we were able to turn that product completely around. But we also thought, so that was our first focus. So people throw out, while they're working on a whiskey, they throw out a vodka, throw out a gin, and they're not really focusing on that. And people judge that. They're judging them on those products.
Of course.
And so we thought, let's focus and get our base product really good, if we can, get as good as we can get it.
Yep.
And then, because we're early enough in the process in Montana, everybody's doing that formula. But we thought, let's focus on flavors. But we're not going to be what helped us decide on how we do flavors, because we use only whole ingredients, no extracts or added sugar, and currently no gluten in anything that we're making. And so it's just a kind of a healthier alternative from the vodkas and stuff that we've had, or I at least had growing up. So I walk into a liquor store, and the guy said, I said, we're going to do flavored vodkas. And he says, take a look at the wall. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So he's saying to me, don't just throw a product out there with the food coloring and extract in it and expect it to sell. It might, but I may not even carry it. I may not carry it because it's like UV, or it's like Sky, or it's like everything else, Vodka and all those.
Right.
And so we went and focused on that. It did take a little bit, it has taken a little bit of time for people to come around, but it's an educational process, because they don't know that, for instance, something like Svedka raspberry, Stoli raspberry, there's no raspberries in it. It's an extract. Or even a coloring and an extract.
Right.
And so you're getting what you're getting. And now, if you look at an extract, it's about 1/200th or so of a real chemical. So a cucumber extract is one little molecule that they pull out that's kind of has that essence that you would recognize cucumber flavor, and then that's what they use. But your body knows it's not a real thing. And for all intents and purposes, who knows if that's part of the reason why people get hangovers, if all things are equal with the products.
Right.
But it surely could be argued. And so, because we have people call us all the time and tell us, I drank a bottle of your cucumber, didn't get a hangover. It's like, why would you tell me? I'm telling you. But thank you. And so I think part of it, that formula of just throwing stuff out there, not focusing on what you have to make what you have good, is what kills hurts a lot of distilleries. But you also have to know when you're coming out with new products, and we're still figuring it out. We don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
You try, what do people want? And then you have to, in our case, educate them. This is a tasting room. We're not a bar. We're here to educate and enlighten and make a special time for someone who wants to come in and get away from it all for a few minutes.
Learn about your process.
Learn about the processes, and just have a really nice environment to do that in with some good cocktails.
Well, you definitely have that going on, Mark. You had mentioned it earlier that one of the things you liked about becoming a micro distiller was that it gave you an opportunity to be around people, and you have people come in the tasting room, you get to interact with them. And just in the little time we've been here, we've noticed that you're interacting with the community, and that you support the community radio station. Your friend Susie came in here.
Right, yeah.
Not quite supporting it. She was working on you there to see if she could get you to support it. You got local photographers and art. I mean, everything about the place. And it just feels like a neighborhood pub.
Oh, this is kind of the dream living room I always wanted. I think I didn't know it. This would be it. But since we're here all the time anyway, it does feel like a home situation.
Good.
And we do take a little bit different approach than some other breweries and distilleries. At some point, we won't be able to be here because we have so much going on, but we take every opportunity to be here that we can and interact. And that's because a lot of the people that come in here are literally former friends from before. And so this is the only place that we'll see them. And if we, because we're here all the time, and if the choice is, hey, do we want to go out to dinner, do something like that, or go home and chill and just go to sleep, sleep.
Right.
Yeah, and so we're pretty much 7 days a week, but it's one of those things where you're right. You have to. We do love it. We both, Sherry and I are both social. In essence, she was a bank manager for years, so she had used to community interaction. I've done a lot of public speaking, and been I have to be in front of people, all different types of people all the time. So through the years, I'm very comfortable with that. I enjoy the individuality of our community. I enjoy the new people we've met thoroughly, and Pat and Sandy behind us are part of that. We met them and become friends with them, and we consider literally, it's all about relationships, and we do consider everybody that comes in here at some level we have a relationship with, and we want to keep that and make them feel like they're cheers, Norm,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an important part of the community, and love what you guys do. And the space is beautiful, and the products speak for themselves. And I've been pining to come down and have one of these bloodies and a Caesar on a Sunday. So thankfully that's happened. Let's talk about the products.
Sure.
How many are you distilling?
Right now we have off and on, mostly we have a couple that are kind of seasonal ones we've been playing with. We're at 12.
Wow.
Which was not expected. Most places have 2 or 3.
Right.
What happened is we kept making up. Well, we started out with coffee, flathead, cherry, and regular. That's what the first products that we took over.
Basis.
Yeah, we took over those products.
Okay.
And when we were doing research out of our home for a year while we're trying to find a building.
Yeah.
We're playing around with flavorings and extracts and things like that in combination, especially with huckleberry. Thought, well, we need a good huckleberry. And so we tried extracts. God, I just can't do it. It's just like everybody else on the national market.
Yeah.
That's my preference. I don't care if other people do it, but I can't. I just
That
can't
wasn't
myself.
your-
It's just not us. But and fortunately, we went with that whole food route. The flavors are more clean. No sugar is something people have to get used to, because they do add a lot of sugar to a lot of spirits. But it just that downtime, everything we kept making kept tasting really, really good, and better enough than anything on the national market to where we had to make it. So we can go into with any of our products and stand price-wise, flavor-wise, experience-wise up with anything on the market today. So we're happy about that. That's exciting. That's cool,
huge.
because
That is cool.
some people are going, well, this one's here is good. This one sucks over here. That we're not getting that kind of not negative feedback. So it's going good. Yeah.
Good. That's great. One thing I want to talk about is the gin, because you said there was a certain process behind it.
Oh, gin, yeah. Gin, we waited for about 1.5 years to do our gin.
Okay.
I had been working on it in my head for quite a while, but it's a smelly process, and part of me is trying to figure out how we're going to run it through the stills where I don't have to take them apart and clean everything, just because it takes, with the regular still, taking that thing apart putting it back together could take a week.
Right.
Because you put it back together, heat it up, it leaks,
Yeah.
let it cool down.
Yeah.
You gotta it's a lot of hours between tweaking.
Sure.
And so I made a bunch of tinctures of things that are in all these gins that are out there. And then I would sit at the end of the night, everybody's cleaning or whatever, I'd be back there with the little eyedroppers, putting drop, okay, 5 drops of this, 4 drops of this, 2 drops of that. And then I realized after the 3rd or 4th time, it's like, Sherry, here are the keys, you gotta drive me home again, that we gotta pull the trigger. So we thought, okay, well, what are the things I don't like, or we don't, well, Sherry's not much of a gin person, but she likes this gin, which is cool. And it's like, what don't I like about gin? Pininess, harshness, flavors that you can't tell what the flavors are, or maybe there's not enough balance or enough dimension to it.
I've always thought you had to be 80 years old to enjoy gin.
Yeah, I think so. I think, all those old London Dries and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, the Beefeaters, that's my dad was all about that until we got this one now. Oddly enough, I can't keep my mom out of the bar for a gin. But we decided to pull the trigger on some kind of familiar flavors. So you have the juniper forward, as gins are supposed to be juniper forward.
Right.
Then you have coriander, which is a common second ingredient that kind of transitions that so you don't get the pininess. And then we decided to do kind of a up lavender. See, anything past juniper, there's no rule. There's just guidelines. They say try this proportion or that proportion. So it's kind of like, oh God, I don't want to make a ton of this and then, waste product.
Right.
And so because I told her about a week before we were done that, there's this one out of San Francisco, it was batch 80, and we're releasing this last August right before Roots Fest. I hadn't even made it till 2 days before Roots Fest. But so it goes juniper, coriander, lavender, and then rosemary, and then lemon and lime. So they transition well together.
Wow.
And the thing that's nice is with those kind of botanicals, if you think of some of the traditional gins from the day, they've got fennel, licorice, and some of these other things.
Right.
Well, those don't mix the same. You're not going to get licorice to mix with orange juice or something as well as something that doesn't. Just the flavor ingredients in there mix well because we're using them in some of our drinks already.
Right.
And so, fortunately, knock on wood, the first batch we released, it was just for drinks only, it was at Roots Fest. Only thing I tweaked on it is cut the juniper down, and that was it. There's a lot around the country you'll hear about distilleries. They may come out with 5 or 6 gins and never tell anybody and just kind of keep making it.
It's just in the back room.
It's just, no, they're selling it and just seeing how it sells and what people think. So you come back a month later and you might be tasting a different gin completely.
Wow.
So we didn't want to do anything like that.
Right.
And just wanted to say, here it is. And if we're tweaking anything, it's just whatever we chose. Now other gins in the marketplace as we grow forward, because the gin is re-emerging, are going to have weird things in them that are indigenous to the area. And Nick at Glacier's got huckleberry in his, and that's really cool. He's doing that,
Cool.
and then Spotted Bear's got some other stuff in theirs. So yeah, it's a really neat
Local to the area things.
To come up with the flavor of the gin was quite a process, and but we're having fun with it now. It's just really smelly.
Right. Interesting.
So Mark, you mentioned you kind of name dropped a couple other distilleries in Western Montana, Nick up at Glacier, Spotted Bear. There's 3 right here in town.
Yeah.
How dense can this get?
Well, there's a new one opening on the corner in a couple months. It's going to be doing absinthe and some liqueurs and things.
I was wondering when we were going to get to the absinthe. I've been waiting.
I know, right? Yeah, I can't wait to try it. I think everybody has their niche. You're talking about why distilleries don't fail, and part of it is you can have one. They can have we're in a small market, so we're not going to have pack tasting every day. So we got to get
Right.
distribution to support that.
Right.
And so if you go into a big market and there's 1 million people that try it once, you're a millionaire.
You're doing pretty good.
But then again, if you have a product and there's 1 million people and they keep buying it over and over and over, then you're doing really good.
You're doing really well.
But so when going back to why some people do that Nutri-Grain Spirit thing you're talking about, they'll just throw it out there, and that's okay. It's a marketing. It's a lot about marketing. A lot of products out there that are in the national market now, they could care less about what's in the bottle. It's what they market on the outside of the bottle. And they don't really care about it. It's a way to make money.
I think you just hit it right out of the park, because Kobe and I we talk about this pretty much every day. And it kills me, because with our name and what we're trying to promote here in Montana, and hopefully grows and moves on, I struggle with that. I think there is an audience that cares what goes into the bottle and what the distiller makes and throws in there, but I think there's a larger audience that they just don't care.
Right.
And so we want to bring light to folks like you and Ryan Montgomery and the other folks that you mentioned.
Sean,
'Cause-
Dan, and
yeah, I think there is that audience, and we are trying to shed a little bit of light on folks like you that, you know what, I'd rather give you my money than go to the store and get that big bottle. It may have a really cool label, but it's just the same run-of-the-mill shine that everybody else is promoting.